Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Hashtag Now Smoking. I'm Gary Korb, Executive Editor for CigarAdvisor.com, and today's featured cigar is the Nub Cameroon 460. Yes, the Nub Cameroon 460. And joining me today is John Pulo, Managing Editor for CigarAdvisor.com. Hello, John.
Hello, Professor. Nice to see you again today.
It's nice to see you too. And this is a real different tack for us. You know, I don't think I've smoked a nub in like forever. You know.
Yeah, you know, it's probably been a while. It's been 2 years, as a matter of fact. I know why, and I'm not going to give it away because I have a surprise for you for later. But I know it's been 2 years since I smoked my last one.
Yeah, you know, it's and this is a wild little size because it's 4 inches by 60 ring. So it's really stubby, you know. And let's give you some more information about the cigar. It is made by Oliva Cigars, and it has an African Cameroon wrapper on it. And the binder and filler are Nicaraguan. And this cigar goes for under $7. It's a $6.83 MSRP at this time. So anyway, this little background on Nub cigars for those who are watching, not really familiar with the brand. They debuted as Oliva Nub in 2008, and basically, you know, what they were trying to do was answer the question, what if you could start smoking your cigar at the point where it has the richest amount of flavor and strength, okay? And the answer was the Nub. Ta-da. And this became a real hot trend for a while. Once it caught on, it really caught on big. And it was, you know, and 12 years later, it's still a really great selling cigar and just as popular as ever. And it has the same amount of long filler as you would have in a regular size cigar. So if this was a Toro or a Churchill, it would be using the same amount. And it's all, measured to fit in this particular size. And this, I think the 60 is, do they have a 64 too, I think?
In the Cameroon, I'm not sure, but I know in most of the nub sizes, they go up to a 64 as well as a 64 torpedo.
They do, okay. So anyway, so here's the thing. They're made in a lot of different wrappers. I mean, these are a lot of these. So there's really a nub for just about every cigar smoker. They have an infused selection called Nub Cafe, which I like very much too. So just to give you an idea, you have your Nub Cameroon, you got Nub Connecticut, you got Nub Habano, you got Nub Maduro, you got Nub Dub, the double Maduro, you got Oliva Cane Straight Ligero Nub. Then you have the Nub Cafe Cappuccino, Nub Cafe Macchiato, and Nub Cafe Espresso. So
Nub-a-go-go.
I feel like, you know, what was the guy in Forrest Gump, you know, Bubba?
Oh, yeah.
Shrimp, Creole, shrimp, you know, shrimp on the fried, shrimp on, you know. So it's like with the nub. So anyway, John, how's your cigar there? You haven't lit it yet, have you? Or did you get
Not yet. I actually just gave it I cut it and gave it a cold draw, and very rich leather, fermented tobacco. I mean, this is a pretty sturdy tasting cigar in the prelate. What I found interesting is it me? I mean, Cameroon is kind of a dark wrapper to begin with. Not as dark as a Maduro would be, but it seems. I mean, does this seem to you that this is darker than Fuente, darker than L'Aurora, than H. Upmann? Does it seem like that this nub is a little bit darker than some other Cameroons you might be used to?
I noticed that too when I took it out of the humidor today. Yeah, it is a little bit on the darker side. I don't know, you know, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's either the way they cure it or ferment it.
It's plenty toothy too. So, I mean, if you look real close, you can see some of those nice little pockets of oil that we call tooth that are all over this thing. So a nice appearance and actually a pretty sturdy pre-light from this, just the first initial draw.
Well, I'm getting a little bit of saltiness. I don't know why I'm always getting saltiness now on every cigar.
That's been a thing with you lately, yeah.
I don't know, but you know what I do have? I have the official Nub cigar ashtray.
See, look at you. Look at you. You're nice and official here.
Yes, I am. I even wore my Oliva shirt.
Oh
And the
my
folks at
God.
Oliva are great people. They make great cigars. I'm a big fan of the
So,
Oliva.
dear Oliva folks, please address your checks to Gary J. Korb, care of Famous Smoke Shop, Cigar Advisor, 90 More Drive, Houston, PA. So you should be seeing your bonus check coming very, very shortly from the Oliva people. Well done.
Okay.
Well done.
But I do like their cigars and that, and I think we all do. I think we have a lot of Olivas over the years. I'm getting a really good draw out of this.
Yeah, you know what? This is the second one. Um, the first one had a little bit more resistance. This one was a lot more clear. So
Okay.
you know, as a big rig should, but or at least that you would expect. It's not packed over tight or anything like that. This one has a nice clear draw. The other one had a little bit of resistance. So take the average.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's light them up. Oh wow. Lit up really.
Are you say? Oh wow! Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Like how fast it lit up, or?
Well, no, I was thinking some of the flavors that are popping through as I'm taking my first few puffs.
Yeah. No, I just took my first puff.
It's taken a little bit of extra work to get this thing lit. You know, I think you mentioned there's a pretty
Yeah.
pretty solid core of Nicaraguan and other tobaccos. So
Yeah. It's a 60 ring, and you know 4 more rings, and you got an inch wide. So it's very wide. It's very stubby. It's kind of short. I mean, it's almost like a pregnant Rothschild or something. It's just
I was thinking from the Big and Tall store, but sure.
Yeah. I just want to make sure it's going real good. Have you had it? You got any flavors out of it yet?
So there's a little bit of a tingling of spice, and you know what I found interesting, and I'm sensing it again. It's that dry taste that I normally associate with Connecticut. You know, which really isn't a stretch because Cameroon and Connecticut shade are actually, if I recall correctly, both descended from Sumatra seed. So it would not be uncommon for them to share some characteristics. And to me, that seems to be one of them. That it's got a little bit more body to it than maybe a Connecticut shade does, but there's still some of that palate drying kind of sensation, at least in these first couple of puffs.
Okay. Let me just see here. Now that I know it's going okay. Well, I'm getting a lot of pepper. It's very peppery.
Yeah, there's no shortage of that. That taste too coming out and just kind of plunks itself right down in the middle of your taste buds.
It's going right up there.
I have arrived, and my name is Pepper, and so there's plenty of that to get started.
Well, the idea is to I think the concept was originally let's start at what we call the sweet spot of the cigar, right? Like where the cigar starts to get really those flavors start to come in, like really nicely and balance out. So that's the idea behind, or the concept, I should say, behind the Nub brand. I picked the Cameroon because you don't really see too many, not just see, but you don't really, a lot of people don't smoke a lot of Cameroons. I mean, I guess if you smoke Fuente, you're smoking Cameroon, but I just thought it would be good to visit the Cameroon wrapper on this one because it's kind of unique. And I'm getting a nice flow too. I mean, it's coming. Everything's going nicely.
Well, how about any sweetness? Because one thing that I notice is this muted sweetness that I always get from Cameroon specifically. You say it's not that a lot of people smoke it. Which is kind of a shame because there's some really redeeming qualities to it, very unique and almost on the border of exotic. You know, the smoke, you know, even just after a couple of puffs, you can tell it's starting to get kind of creamy. But Cameroon to me has this subtle, sweet grassiness that you know, it's light. It's almost really hard to describe, but it kind of hits on the back sides of my tongue. And to describe it is hard. I can only say that I know it when I taste it. And this in particular has a lot of it. I mean, already just it's kind of popping those parts of my palate on the back of my sides and back of my tongue, and just they're just jumping alive, and that's where the flavor's hitting first.
Yeah, I can relate to that a little bit. I can, yeah, yeah, a little bit. Back,
Hmm.
to the back of the tongue. You're right. Yeah, it's interesting. Let me ask you a question about the nub. When did you first learn about nub cigars? Like, when did you first discover them?
Well, you know, it was probably I think I learned about them a little bit after everybody kind of got into them. You know, I think at the time I wasn't really understanding things like what the sweet spot is, like a lot more experienced smokers had. You know, and I was kind of still learning about cigars from the approach of start to finish, and how it's, you know, it's an evolving experience as opposed to let's just jump right into the, you know, the main course, so to speak.
Right. Well, I kind of treat it like any other cigar anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, it's we have the first, second, and third sections of the cigar, and like right now, it's actually behaving like a lot of other cigars. It's sort of like bold in flavor. I'm getting a lot of spice out of it,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping it's going to round out, a little bit, like a lot of cigars do.
Right.
Hmm. So I'll tell you what. Let's get this thing going a little bit, and then we'll get more into it in just a minute. Act one. All right. We're in the first act of the Nub Cameroon 460. It's a 4-inch by 60 ring. I'm here with John Pulo, and mine's going really good now. I'm getting a lot of smoke, and some of the spice is starting to taper off a little bit. It was very spicy at first. How about you?
Yeah, you know what? The pepper, and it's also pretty evident in the retrohale. I don't know if you had a chance to do that yet, you know, but that was kind of a little bit of an eye opener. You know, one thing I have noticed too, as we've settled in here, and at a 4-inch cigar, when you only burn a half inch of it, you've already gone an eighth of the way through the cigar,
I know.
or maybe even more, you know, depending on how much of it you tend to leave. You know, but so
Hmm.
far, I mean, if you can see this, the burn is straight as an arrow. I mean, it's cranking great. The
Yeah.
ash is a bit flaky, but it's holding
Okay.
tight. And you know, I mean, obviously that's not hard to do for a short and stout cigar, like a nub, for the ash to hold
Hmm.
on. I mean, I think you'll probably end up tapping it twice at best. I'll bet, you know, throughout the
Hmm.
course of the cigar. But you know, nicely made, and you know, so far settling into some nice flavors, and now that some of that initial pepper has burned off.
Yeah. What are you getting? Also, I'm getting a little bit of some woodiness, and there's no saltiness seems to have gone away.
Woody. The smoke is kind of getting a little creamier, as we talked about before. Um,
Right.
there's a little bit of wood, earthy, is in there too, and that muted sweetness is that
Yeah.
I talked about before is still kind of hanging around too.
Yeah. And I'd say it's probably like a pretty right down the middle, medium strength and body right
Yeah,
now.
well, you know, the interesting thing about that is I think that there's probably a little bit more body than strength. The strength isn't, you know, huge, but the smoke being as thick as it is, and you know, the flavor coming on, you know, kind of so hard in the beginning, um, you know, at least so far, uh, you know, it's kind of keeping pace, strength and body. But you know, if this is any indicator, you know, I have noticed in the past, nub will tend to outbody the strength after a little while, especially when you get closer to the end.
Yeah. It's true. What are you drinking with yours?
Today, nothing. I
Nothing?
had a little bit of
Whoa,
lunch, and then
you're
that's it.
brave.
I just wanted to go, get the pure taste of the cigar, and that was it.
Yeah, I went back to the cream soda,
Hmm.
but it's so sweet. But actually, it's not a bad match. It's like it was for the last cigar we did with that.
Yeah,
Um,
is it pulling more sweetness out of the cigar, or are you
no,
finding that it
no, it's
overpowering?
just so sweet that I almost have to like clear my palate before I even take a puff. I don't want any too much lingering sugar on there. But
Yeah,
I am
yeah,
getting
yeah.
some natural sweetness out of it.
Hmm.
I'm getting some natural sweetness from the cigar too. So it's really nice. And they used to. I think I don't. I hope I'm right about this. I think it was Stanford Newman, but there were who was using Cameroon in lieu of Cuban wrapper.
One of the things that Cameroon was noted for was it served as a pretty effective replacement for Cuban Corojo.
Yes, that's what
And
I'm
so,
trying to get at.
so when you started seeing some of these blends being made outside of Cuba, so the expatriate versions,
Yeah.
that was the closest thing they had in taste to be able to mimic the original profile of what the world had come to know as as you said, Partagas, for example.
Mhm.
So that was some of the things we talked about, and I know you had mentioned some of the things you needed to know about Cameroon wrappers.
Yeah, you wrote an article called Five Things You Need to Know About Cameroon Wrapper. So that makes you an expert. So enlighten
Well,
us.
it just makes me as a half decent researcher than an expert.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an eye-opening experience for me too. And thankfully the information has aged well. But we always, if you'll notice, sometimes we'll talk about a distinction in terms of genuine African Cameroon. Because Cameroon, if the seed can be grown in a lot of different places, but the genuine Cameroon is grown in Africa. It's part of Western Africa, and because of where it's grown, it's actually very expensive. Rivaling Connecticut shade in many cases. But they'll use it to get some very unique tastes, like we've been talking about. And I went back to look at this article to pull out some of the more interesting things. We talked about tooth before, right?
Yes.
And so what tooth is, these are the pockets of oil that have collected underneath the surface of the leaf. And it just so happens that when you ferment Cameroon, it develops a lot of these pockets. And that helps give the taste, or give the leaf its particular taste. It helps give the leaf aroma. And, blenders then will use, or in some cases not use, certain amounts of it in order to get the desired taste they're looking for, with that Cameroon when they're trying to formulate that taste. Interestingly, it was also on a lot of machine-made cigars when it was a little bit more plentiful. But that, if you read the article, you can kind of see some of the history. The French, it was a nationalized French company co-op that was in there, and then the Mirapfels, you might know that name through Fuente. Cameroon has a pretty long, sometimes violent, but interesting history.
Yeah.
And if you check it out, five things you need to know about Cameroon wrapper, we touch on a few of those things. And
Yeah. I will.
like I said, I learned a lot writing that too.
Yeah, I'll put a link in on the article page, the review for the cigar to it, so people can read that. And I think I also did a article called. I think I named 10 of the top Cameroon cigars or something too. So
Top
that
Cameroon
came up.
cigars. That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's starting to kind of settle down a little bit. I'm trying not to draw on it too often.
Hmm.
I tend to smoke faster when we do these shows, but it's if you just let it smoke itself, it really kind of opens up really nicely. I'm getting a like kind of a sweet, woody, earthy kind of a thing right now. How about
Hmm.
you?
Yeah, a lot of the same. The creamy smoke, the muted sweetness, the earthiness. that really hasn't changed much since the pepper kind of fell out off the beginning.
Yeah.
So very consistent in its taste, but that's kind of how it's built. If Nub's idea is to get to the sweet spot, pretty much immediately, then there really shouldn't be a lot of changes. One would think, because okay, you want to get to the best part of the steak, so to speak. You don't have to need to keep cutting your way in. You're already there, and it should all taste the same.
Right. Well, I don't think I wouldn't call it complex. It's just kind of like straightforward. And I think I think I would have liked to maybe smoke this with water, plain water, just to really get even more of the natural flavor out of the cigar. But I'm enjoying it a lot. I think I think it's really nice, and I think it's a good opportunity for. Well, I don't know about this particular ring gauge. It's kind of wide for probably a lot of people, but definitely if you want to get the idea of like a good Cameroon wrapper. And I know Oliva does use good Cameroon on their Series G. So.
How would you compare that to this?
Hey, that's a good question. The Series G is well. I've smoked those. I haven't smoked the Series G in this ring gauge. And I think most of them are box pressed too. But it's a good question. I think the Series G is probably a little milder, I should say, in body and strength. It's not just has a little more bang to it. But as far as the profile, I think that one might be a little sweeter too. I think it's just that this has like so much tobacco in here. I think this is a much heartier cigar. I guess that's the best comparison I can make.
Okay. Because that was one of the things I was wondering, for also being another Cameroon cigar from Oliva, is this just a short version of that? And it seems to me that I think you're right. I think that this one has it's a little more in your face as far as some of the flavors and some of the bite happens to be.
So a totally different character. I think that'd be a good way to put it. But I'll tell you, so far it's been really good. So let's see what happens when we get down a little bit more into the second act. Okay, Nub Cameroon 460. So far, so good. We're in the second act, and we're down to the nub of the nub already, right?
That's very meta. The nub of the nub.
Even a nub has a nub, right? So
the meat of the meat, the nub of the nub, the neck of the nub, the nub of the neck.
What are you tasting?
You know what? Again, these it's cruise control, man. If the goal was to get to that certain set of flavors that the cigar was built to deliver, that's that earthiness, maybe a little bit of nutty taste in there too. A lot of cedar.
Yes.
But that's pretty much been the thing, and that's the whole shape of the whole thing, so far. The only thing I can tell you that's different is we're getting into the second and closer to the nub of the nub. Is the strength is never more than medium so far, but we talked about body before, and I had kind of said that sometimes they outbody a regular cigar nub. I think in this case it's the Nicaraguan tobacco in there that's helping drive this fuller taste, and it's almost like it's leaving a little bit of a lump in the back of your throat. It is in the back of mine. I mean, it's not throat hit, so it's not nicotine, it's not strength, it's not power, but it's just a kind of richness that I didn't expect as I was getting from point A to point B.
Yeah. Well, I remember years ago when I started working at Famous and I met Jose Oliva. He used to tell me that, a good cigar, you want to feel it in your gut, and that's the way they like to blend Olivas. They do have a certain character to them, Oliva cigars. They do have this sort of, they do tend to be kind of woody. I mean, the Oliva V is a different animal, but their mainline cigars like the O and and even the nub for that matter. Just really, really smooth, very Nicaraguan, with that earthiness. And I'm getting a like kind of a sweet cedar note. That's the main thing that's coming out of here right now.
That's interesting, because you know what? I read an interesting review of this cigar from someone I know.
Yeah, what did they say?
Initial flavors, earth and wood, with only a suggestion of sweet tobacco. So maybe that's some of that muted sweetness that I'm trying to describe.
Yeah.
Since the cigar starts where the key flavors are supposed to be, I concluded that the base flavors were pretty much all she wrote. It gets peppier in the last couple of inches, but for the most part, it's a solid, full-flavored cigar that never ventures far from home. For cigar smokers who like the earthy, spicy character of rich Nicaraguan tobacco, this nub's for you. By Gary Corp. This was from this. You did this. It was a slightly larger ring gauge, but you did the Nub Cameroon.
Really?
We have an essential guide to nub cigars at cigaradvisor.com. So we did a taste test. Gary had listed off, you had listed off all of the different nubs that,
right.
The Nub Cafe, the Nub Nuance, I think it's called now. The Nub Cameroon, the Nub Connecticut, the Nub Dub, et cetera, et cetera. All of the nubs that we have access to at Famous, we reviewed them, put them together in one guide. Gary did the Nub Cameroon, and that was his summary. So far, that was 2 years ago that we did that guide. That's why I said it's been 2 years since I smoked my last nub. So these cigars are still consistently putting out that same flavor profile that you reviewed 2 years ago.
Wow, that's really amazing, and it's really nice. And I'll tell you another thing. You talked about the Cameroon wrapper, earlier, and I think most Cameroons that I've smoked, the wrapper tends to be very delicate. They tend to tear easily, but this one seems a little bit thicker. You notice that? It's got some it's got a little thickness to it.
What's interesting is I don't think you'll ever see a Cameroon Maduro, just because the leaf is too delicate to really stand up to an effective fermentation to make it that dark. The other thing is that genuine Cameroon is kind of a smaller sized leaf, so it's not found in a lot of big ring cigars. I think these are probably the exception because they're shorter. But there are some exceptions. Especially as more and more Cameroon tobacco is grown. But if you look back on your 10 top Cameroon wrapper cigars, not that many of them, a few, but not that many are larger ring sizes.
That's true. Yeah.
They just don't grow that big. The leaf just does not grow that big to, have that kind of room to make a large run of large ring.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're growing Cameroon somewhere else, like, maybe in Ecuador or, I really
yes, they are. It is being grown in Ecuador too. And the other Oliva Tobacco, is one of the primary growers in Ecuador. And they're growing everything, amazing stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had Ecuador seed Cameroon. But that's, obviously I'm sure the taste would be a little bit different. And, I think, for our purposes, we're pretty much locked in on the genuine African stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, as far as the burn goes, my burn's been great so far. It's nice and even. I'm getting like nice rounded kind of an ash. And I got to ask you about this because I watched this video with you this morning with you and Jared, and you smoked a cigar backwards. Now you didn't smoke it backwards. He did, and you smoked the exact same cigars, but he smoked it with the foot in his mouth, like he's always doing. No, that's not fair. And you smoked it the regular way. But there have been times when I wasn't paying attention, and I actually did put the foot in the mouth. But what did you learn from that experience? I'm just wondering how it would be with a nub too.
Well, you know what? I was surprised that there wasn't that much of a disparity in the flavors. We smoked a Robusto, and that, I would have thought, because of what we have picked up along the way from people we talk to who do this stuff for a living, blending.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll tell you all sorts of inside baseball stuff when, it matters in which directions that the tips of the leaves are pointed, and some people tend to use stems and whatever, but and so the thought process when Jared got this original question from one of our readers was, okay, you know what, if he's starting at this end and I'm starting at this end, we should have a different set of flavors. By the time we get to the middle, it'll probably be the same. But then when we get over here, when mine is ending and his is ending, will he taste what I was tasting at the beginning? And
Right.
vice versa. And I was really surprised. It actually, it just seems to me that a cigar is blended. There is an overall character that will take over on even the most complex of cigars. That you will still taste a consistent series of flavors that, no matter what direction, upside down, left, right, bottom, top, whatever you smoke it, you're gonna get those notes.
Well, speaking of notes, I'm now, I guess I would call the sweet spot of the nub, because I've only got a couple inches left here. I can barely, hold it comfortably. And
Pull out your roach clips pretty soon,
it's,
man.
I left it upstairs, but it's, it's really tasting good now. I'm really getting a lot of pretty much the same flavors, but they're a little bit creamier, a little more well defined.
Yep. It's the creamy smoke is still there. A lot of that earthiness is really coming on. Some of the nutty, a lot of that cedar wood is still there. This has been a solidly consistent cigar from pretty much the start to where we are now. I've only ashed it once, so again, I'll probably take the band off as we get closer here. I'll ash it twice, and that's all it's going to need. And that's going to be. That's it. So that tells you a little bit about its construction and consistency.
All right, well, let's leave it at that, and we'll come back and finish this baby up. All right, this thing is going great. This Nub Cameroon 460, and I'm down to the nub.
The nub of the nub.
Well, I'm not even really, I mean, a nub on this will probably be like a half an inch or so, but it's been very, very creamy and very consistent. How's yours going?
Well, I just retrohaled, so you're going to have to give me a minute.
Oh, okay. I
You know what? There's still plenty of pepper in this taste profile. You just got to look for it, and I think I've found it. Wow, my eyes are watering. I mean, that's a robust taste coming out of there.
Yeah, I'm getting the pepper now. Woo.
See that? Oh yeah, son.
I think there's got to be a fair amount of Esteli in here. I know they try to break it up. I know they use like a diverse blend. It's probably like could be Condega for the binder or something. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of mid to high priming Esteli in here, or at least mid priming. Yeah, it's really getting wild. Who is this cigar for? Who should smoke it?
Who is this cigar for? Okay, couple of thoughts. One is if you want to get into, if you like big ring cigars, but you don't have a lot of time. For instance, a 660 is going to probably take you better than 2 hours to smoke. If you like a 60 ring size, but you don't have that kind of time, you can still get that kind of taste out of it that you like and the shape you enjoy in a fraction of that time by going with a nub. I also think it's for somebody who, if you're kind of a more flavor forward type of person, but you don't like a lot of strength, then I would say at least put this on your try list.
Yeah, I agree. And also I think that if you really love the flavor of, dark Nicaraguan tobacco, this is a nice way to go too.
One other thing too is I would say, we name checked a couple of other Cameroon cigars and a couple other companies that make Cameroon. So if you're putting together a list, we've talked a couple times about your 10 top Cameroon picks. I don't remember if this one was on it, but I would say that's a pretty comprehensive list. And for the Nub Cameroon to be on that, if you really want to get a taste for Cameroon, what it does and what it can do, then try some of the cigars on his list and make sure that this is one of them. And you kind of see a sweeping range of how these different cigar makers use this leaf to their advantage.
Yeah, I know that in Dominican, it's Dominican Republic. It's Fuente and La Aurora. Use a lot of Cameroon on most of their mainline cigars.
Yeah.
And of course,
in Nicaragua, I know AJ Fernandez put out a New World that has one.
Yes.
In this is a Nicaraguan cigar, Nub Cameroon. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones off the top of my head. I mean, there are more than you think.
Well, Rick, when I was with Rick Rodriguez a couple weeks ago, he said that I think it was either the #1 selling cigar at CAO or maybe it was #2, but it was definitely in the top.
I watched that video. That video. It was the #2 selling CAO cigar. Is the CAO Cameroon.
Yeah.
So
Cameroon is if you're going to be a cigar smoker, you got to have at least a few Cameroon cigars in your cigar smoking lifetime, because
consider it a safari for the taste buds.
Yes, very unique cigar. I also want to ask you about, like, when you're relaxing with a cigar, like you're by yourself, you want to have that cigar. I mean, do you basically just kind of kick back, or do you have like an activity that you do with it, or do you just try to relax with it? And like we're doing now.
Primarily reading.
Okay.
I have shut off the fire hydrant that is the news. So this, my thing lately has been to, once everybody else goes to bed, come out on the porch, out on the patio, and have a cigar and just flip through some of the different news stories. And rather than be screamed at for an hour and 20 minutes, I'll just pick and choose the ones I want to read. And I'll feel that I am educated enough by the end of the night before my head hits the pillow. I've, my blood pressure has gone down. I feel a little bit smarter. I certainly have the satisfaction of having smoked a good cigar under my belt. And, that's kind of like a nice punctuation mark to my day.
Yeah, do you ever listen to music when you have a cigar?
Very rarely.
Me too. I don't know why. I mean, we have this playlist and everything, and we love all these songs. And
I was going to say, for as integral as music is to our day-to-day life, I find that very rarely do I actually have music going. I mean, if I'm in a lounge or something like that, I won't mind. But once we get back to the lounge life, I'll probably be more interested in seeing what's on television. If it's, if there's a game on or something like that, or you just, end up, if there's people around, you end up talking really more than anything else.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, music doesn't make it into my routine that much. Probably less than I had expected, now that I have to think about it.
Yeah, me too. As I was thinking about that earlier, that's why I asked you that. Like, and when you're on vacation, pretty much the same thing. Just
vacation, I like to sit back in my beach chair and smoke my cigar. And and that's, so the ocean is its own soundtrack.
Yes.
And so that is like my zen right there. And if for some reason, usually where we stay, when we go on vacation each year, there's a nice small patio on the back, and I can sit out there and smoke a cigar after dinner or something like that. Because everybody's habits change when you're on vacation. You might go to bed a little bit earlier, because you get up a little earlier. You're excited to do things, or whatever the case is. You want to hit it at a certain time. Or just because people are hanging out on the back porch and you just want to all kind of be together. And also, I'll be over on the side with my feet up, smoking a cigar, and that's vacation.
Yeah,
totally different speed.
Yeah, I've found that now that I've been working from home, and I just You know, I've been able to have a cigar. I've been saving it for like the end of the day. That's like my reward at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I've just been reading books. I have all these books I bought over the years, and I haven't read a lot of them, and now I'm finally getting to read them. And I just be able to escape, you know, into a good novel. It's just, to me, it's great, and having a good cigar with it. Just, you know, everything's
Well,
just
then
fine.
along with the playlist, we should put out your book list. You're the next Oprah.
I could do that.
Gary's book club.
So anyway, that's it for our Nub Cameroon 460. And remember that you can buy Nub cigars at famous-smoke.com. And while you're there, sign up for the free cigar catalog with deals on every page. And for more smoking advice and information, you want to visit us at cigaradvisor.com. We appreciate that. Sign up for our emails. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And if you're watching us on YouTube, like this video, please, and sign up for our YouTube channel at Cigar Advisor Magazine at YouTube. And we really would appreciate you also signing up for notifications so you know these videos go up. So that's it for now. John Thulo, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, buddy. Nice to see you.
All right, and we'll see you next time on #NowSmoking. So thanks for joining us, and happy smokes.